Hello friends, hope you liked the last video. Just try and recall the last video. Okay, what we discussed? We discussed about the compilation process of a program, right? There are various stages in there. I told you all the stages separately. These are the stages. Remember, try to recall the stage called pre-processor. Very important, very important. Okay, not only from knowledge point of view, but those of you who are attending interviews and tests, there also this chapter holds importance. Okay, now that's what our discussion is all about for today. Today's topic is preprocessor in C and C++. Almost same at both the places. All right, so let's go on with it. Let's start with it. Okay, now try and, as I said, try and recall what I discussed with you about preprocessor. I said what it does. Okay, what it does. I said it converts the source code. This is what I told you about preprocessor. It converts source code into something called expanded source code. Source code, SC, in short. Alright, so what it is doing, it is taking the source code of a program. Let's say your program name is x.c or program.c. Let's say. What it is doing, it is taking that program and converting the entire program into expanded source code. I'll give you a very simple example. Okay, after that, I'll go deep into it. Alright, what happens here is, I have got a program. For example, this is a program where I have got a main function. It's a C program. Okay. In here, I'm sorry, just before this, let's have this line so that it will be more meaningful. This is a program in which I'm using this is your source code. There's just one line here. It's a printf statement which is printing the value of n. Now, see this line. I'll explain you later on. All of you almost familiar with this line, but still then, okay. M is called a macro. All right. It's called a macro which carries a value 60. Now this is your source code. The moment it is converted into expanded source code, it will not have this line. Okay, take care to see it properly. It will not have this line. Rather, here M will be replaced with a value 60. This becomes your expanded source code. Got it? So this is what is a sample of what exactly preprocessor is all about. Now, let's discuss what it does. A few things what it does. First, what expanded source code will do. Your expanded source code will not have a single line starting with a hash. Every preprocessor statement starts with a hash. Now hash simply tells you that a line starting with a hash, okay, will be supplied to the preprocessor. Every line that starts with a hash is given to the preprocessor. Preprocessor will process those lines which are starting with a hash. Is that clear to you? Now, apart from this, let's talk about the preprocessor, statements, different types of preprocessor statements which are available, which we'll be discussing about in this particular session. There are different types of preprocessor. Before I go into that, let me quickly tell you what preprocessor does. First thing it will do, it will remove all the hash from your program. This will be expanded. Removing a hash means I'm not saying it will be completely removed. Rather, all these will be expanded. Got it? Apart from that, what it will do is it will remove comments from your program. This is what preposter does again. It will remove the comments from the program. If your program has any comments, it will be removed automatically from the program. Got it? Apart from this, what it does, what else it will do? It removes the hash, removes the comments. Apart from this, it will expand. There is something called hash include, if you remember. Okay, it will expand all those source code starting with a hash. I'm sorry, all those lines starting with a hash, as I said. In that comes a file inclusion. All of us are familiar with it, almost all of us. Okay, hash include stdio.h, hash include iostream.h in C++, like that. Any line where an include statement is there, the file will get replaced in here. I'll explain it just after a few moments. All right. So let's go on with it. Let's see what it does in details. Okay, there are, as I said, types. What are the different types of preprocess statement? There are basically 4 types of preprocess statement. First, it is file inclusion. This is how it looks like. Have a look. Second, macro expansion. Have a look how it looks like. Macros. Later on we will discuss it in details. 3. Conditional compilation. A program, parts of a program are compiled based on certain condition. Alright. Fourth one is other directives, or you can also call it miscellaneous directives. Got it? So these are the 4 types: file inclusion, macro expansion, conditional compilation, and other directives. Okay, one by one, let's jump into it. Right. Let's start with the first one, file inclusion. And we all are very familiar with this. Okay, a very simple statement like this: hash include stdio.h. We are so familiar with this statement, isn't it? We are very familiar. Now, what happens here? What is stdio.h? It contains functions which will be used for standard input output. Example, printf function, scanf function, which is regularly used in a program. Alright. What will happen during preprocessor? If this file is included, it will be expanded. That means it will be replaced. This line will be replaced with the contents of the file. Got it? And remember, a file inclusion we are talking about. A file can be included in 2 different ways. I can include a file within this, or I can include a file in, this is angular brackets we are talking about. I can include a file within double quotes also. So what exactly is the basic difference between the two? Let's discuss that. If you are including a file within angular brackets, that simply means it's a file which is in the library, standard C library or C++ library. Okay, it will look for this file in a path. Path means where the files exist. Supposing, for example, I'll give you a simple example of this. So many of you are familiar with Turbo C++ compiler, Turbo C compiler. Okay, you will find there is a folder called TC bin. There is a folder TC include. There are folders like this. Within those folders, there are all those files which are included in which are used inside a program. For example, std.out.h, it will be there inside the include folder. So we are simply including means we are trying to extract that file from that location. Alright. So if it is within angular brackets, the search for the file will happen in the current path. That means whatever path is already set, there only to look for the file. But if your file is included within double quotes, it simply means it's a file which is a user defined file. Okay. What is the need for this? Very simple. I might have a header file of my own. I might have all my functions which are there in a single header file or usability. Sometimes a program becomes too heavy with hundreds of lines of code. If it is that kind of a program, then it becomes too irritating to read, to go through, and to understand the entire program because of the number of lines. It's not that it's a complex program. Just because there are hundreds of lines, it becomes very boring going through all these lines. Debugging becomes a problem. So many problems. That is when you can break your program into parts and store them in separate modules. Alright, and those modules you can include over here. So that is the advantage of having this. And this, normally, if a file is included within double quotes, you will find a path will be given for the file. Normally, if it is not, what will happen is, first in the current path the file will be looked for, like here, like in case of Angular brackets. In the path it will look for this file. If it is not found in the path, then it will look inside the current folder, current directory. Got it? So it's that way it is happening. This one has more advantages, isn't it? Including a file with double quotations. Got this? So I hope you understand what this file inclusion means. Now, any kind of file, any type of file can be included. As long as it is meaningful for your program, you are using it inside your program, then it's okay. Then it's absolutely fine. You can include it. Got it? Now, in case of file inclusion, one thing is very important. Remember, when you understand this, that if you are including a file, that simply means the contents of the file gets replaced during the pre-processing stage. That means, if you remember, I said if my file name is x.c, I am getting a file x.i after it goes to the preprocessor. Remember that example in my last video? Alright. So x.i will contain the entire contents of std.out.h if it is included inside the program. Remember that. And I had already shown you how it looks like. Once again, for your sake, I'll just have this slide to show you how it looks like. Look at the slide. Could you see the expansion over there? It is already expanded. Alright. Clear? Okay, let's move on. So, got it? This is how I include files in a program. Alright. Now, let's look at the second type of preprocessor, which I said are macro expansion. Okay. What basically or what exactly is a macro? When I talk about a macro is a single statement, or it can be more than one statement, which is denoted using a particular word or phrase. If you use that word or phrase inside your program, it will be replaced with all those statements or a single statement. It may be single or multiple statements. It will be automatically replaced with that. I'll come to that. I'll show you how a macro looks like. But before I do that, let's understand a macro will start with something called as define. This is the statement which is used to define a macro. Alright. Now macro has defined, remember that some rules about a macro. First, a macro can be defined anywhere inside the program. Remember that. But also remember that if I suppose my program has 4 or 5 lines, okay, I define a macro after the second line here at this point. If I define a macro over here, it will be visible below this. I mean, to line 3, 4, and 5. Understand that? Okay, always remember that. Macro is available from the place of definition till the end of the program. It doesn't have a scope. Very simply, it is available from the place where it is defined till the end. Okay, or maybe till the time you undefine it. There is something called undefining macro. I'll come to that. Got it? So it is about defining, about undefining. Has defined is to define a macro. Okay, let's go on with a very simple example of how a macro looks like, and of course we'll talk about the advantages of using a macro. This is how I do it inside a program. As define, in the start I give you an example. I say aim 60. Now this is also known as, this is popularly called, this aim is popularly also called a symbolic constant. Why such a name? Very simple. Symbolic means symbol we are talking about. The symbol is the aim, and it will be replaced wherever it is used. It will be replaced with the value 60. Okay, and it's a constant. Remember that. Obvious. It cannot be changed. You can never change the value of a macro. Yes, you can define it, you can redefine it, or you can undefine it. That's another issue. But you cannot say m, with m I'll add 5 and store it inside it. No, that's not possible, because m will be expanded. Look at this. This is your source code. You have a main function. Okay, and here you have a variable x is equal to m. Suppose you say this. This is your source code. What will happen? This source code, after it passes through the preprocessor, the conversion will be, as I told you in the beginning, this line will not be there. This line will be entirely gone. Okay. In place of this line, okay, I'm sorry. Apart from this replacement, what will happen? Here, in place of aim, 60 will be here. Got it? Got the changes? So your file will look like this. It will be minus this line and with this particular change, the change in value. Got this? I hope got this example clear. Now, apart from this, okay, look at this. Main function int x equal to aim I have written, and then I write this. Below this, I have a printf statement. I am writing pf, read it as printf. What happens here? This is called a redefinition. Here I said has defined m60. So here when I am saying x equal to m, during pre-processing this m will be replaced with 60. Next line is a redefinition. Here the value of m is 70. So when this line is replaced, here m will be replaced with 70. This is called redefinition. Got this? Clear with this? Now, as I said, this is called a symbolic constant. It also has a name. Okay, what is that? Macro. Generally, macro is categorized into two. What are they? A simple macro and a macro with argument. A simple macro and a macro with argument. Okay, let's see how. Okay, let's first of all write down the two types. Simple macro and the second one is macro with arguments. Got it? Just now we saw an example of a simple macro. Okay, now let's discuss a macro with arguments. Okay, this is an example of a macro with argument. This is a macro with argument. Now, this is the name of the macro. Sum of it. Doesn't it look like a function? So sometimes what happens, there is a bit of a confusion regarding this. I have a function here. It looks like a function. Will it act like a function? No. Function is a different thing. So I'll come to that. I'll discuss with you about that also. Okay. But this is a macro with arguments. Sum A, comma B. So wherever you have sum of something, comma something, that will be replaced with something plus something. And remember, a macro never ends with a semicolon. It doesn't need a semicolon at all. So never end a macro with a semicolon. Understand that. Now inside my program, assuming I have a program here, inside the program, if I write this, suppose I write printf percentile d, comma, sum of I'm sorry, 10, comma 20. Just imagine what will be the replacement at pre-processing, after pre-processing. Sum of 10, comma 20 will be replaced with 10 plus 20. So now when you read this line, the line will read as printf percentile d, comma 10 plus 20. Simply. Got it? Clear with this example? So this is called what? This is called a macro with argument. And remember, macro with argument is confusing sometimes. It might confuse you. I'll give you an example. This is a very, very common mistake which you do. Okay? Look at this. And I have asked this particular question to so many students during my teaching hours, in the classroom. Most of the time it's a quick response due to which they make a mistake. Look at this. This is a macro with argument. I said this. Okay. Now this tells you what the name of the macro is square of x. It will be replaced with x into x. Now look at the line. Look at this carefully. Okay, it says what? Printf percentile d, comma 25 divided by square of 5. What happens here? The quick response is square of 5. 5 into 5, 25. So now what happens? 25 divided by 25, the answer is 1. This is what answer I get 90% of the time. This is a mistake we normally do. Alright, nothing to worry about. Just understand, whenever you see this, never jump to an answer. First, expand this. Okay? Because this is your source code. This is not your expanded source code. What your expanded source code will look like? In place of square of 5, you will say what? In place of square of 5, you will say, see this. 25 divided by 5 into 5. Isn't it? Now read this. We all know, according to rules, operator rules, precedence, priority, alright? Multiplication and division both have equal priority when they are used. Left to right, whatever comes first will be processed first. What does that mean? Here what comes first? Division. So 25 divided by 5 will happen. You get what? 5. That 5 will be multiplied into 5. So what is the result? 25. But by mistake, most of the time we jump to the answer saying 1. Alright. So please don't do that mistake. Never. Always do this. Whenever you get a macro, before jumping to any conclusion regarding the final answer, first expand it. First expand the macro, then go for the answer. Okay? And in some cases, it might be like this also. Okay? It might be like this. Okay? 25 divided by, now this is in brackets obviously. And I write square of 5. What happens here? Just imagine what will happen. What will happen? The square of 5 will be replaced with what? In bracket 5 into 5. So what is the answer? Since all of us know bracket has a higher priority than any operator, so what will happen here? 5 into 5, you get the result, that is 25. Then 25 divided by 25 will give you 1. It might be like this, or else it might be brackets here. Instead of having brackets here, we can have brackets here. Again, what will happen? Just imagine the replacement, pre-processing replacement will take place here. And what will be the replacement inside the bracket? It will be 5 into 5. So obvious, again you get the same result, 25 divided by 25, that is 1. Got it? So be careful while using this. And it might be of any type. And we get a lot of question in a written test. If we are sitting for written test, we get this kind of question, pre-processed questions. You will find a lot of questions like this will be there. I'll give you another example. I say sum of A comma B. Okay, I say A plus B. Done. Okay. Now, or let's change this. I'll change this a bit. I'll make it a bit more complicated. Sum of A comma B comma C. Okay, I say A plus B minus C. Okay, the name doesn't suit, no? Let's call it find. Find A comma B comma C. It is A plus B. Okay, let's say minus C. Done? Now, here what I do is this. Sum of A comma 20 comma 30. This is my statement. What is the replacement? Just imagine A plus 20 minus 30. Isn't it? According to this. Okay. Got this, I hope? Okay. Now, I'll do one thing here. Now, what was the result if I go for this? 10 plus 20 minus 30. What do you get? 0. Okay. Let's change this value so that we get a better result. Let's say 10. Okay. Got it? Now, what is the result you get? You get a result that is 10 plus 20. Clear? You get a result that is 10 plus 20, 30 minus 10. So what do you get? 20 into, I have a multiplication here, sum of 5 comma 5 comma 5. Got it? So now what is the result? Think of it for a second. Got the result in your mind? Okay. Now let's do the expansion. What is the expansion of this whole thing? 10 plus 20 minus 10 into 5 plus 5 minus 5. Isn't it? Now look at this statement and tell me what will happen. First replacement, first calculation will be 10 into 5. What do you get? 50. So now here you get 50. 10 plus 20, 30 minus 50 minus 20. Got it? Plus 5. How much? 15 minus 50, then minus 5. You get what is the final result? Minus 20. So this is how macros are. Sometimes they are a bit tricky. Got it? So, what you should take care of is first expand the macro, then you go ahead and do the calculations. Never make the mistake of first looking at and getting a first-hand impression that this will be the answer. It may or may not be the answer what you are looking for. Okay, most of the time I make the mistake because see, operator priorities, their brackets may be there, may not be there. So be careful about all this. Got it? And what exactly is the advantage of using a macro? just imagine what we do. For example, value of pi. Okay. For example, let's say I have a constant which I use throughout my program. Okay. The value of that constant is 10. 10 I use throughout the program. Now, by mistake, at some place instead of 10, I type the value 100. Will it give you any error, syntax error? No. What it gives is logical error. Instead of using 10, you are using a value 100. Now, those are times when you can use a macro which will be safe. Okay, let's say you are using this statement. Let's say you are throughout your program you are using a statement that is printf, that is a printf statement which prints a particular message in a program. Got it. So anytime you are showing a value, below that you are writing got it, got it, got it. So what will happen? How many times? If it is a big program, every time you have to type the line or maybe copy or paste the line printf got it. Instead of that, I can simply go for this p has given p printf got it. Okay. So now what happens? The double quote. Of course, the space is not there, so I'm writing it here. Alright. So what happens now? Inside your program, at any point in the program, just write p, give a semicolon. What it will be replaced with? It will be replaced with a value. This entire statement, that is printf got it. Okay, clear with this? So I hope you are clear with these three of, for example, till now, which I have discussed with you. Now let's go for a macro with more than one statement. A macro which might have multiple statements. Okay, a very popular and a very common example for is the swap macro. It is also known as a generic macro. Why? This is the name of the macro. Okay, the statements which should be there on the right, I am writing over here since there is no space here. So understand that. Okay. These are the statements. Temp equal to A, semicolon, A equal to B, semicolon, B equal to A. And don't put a semicolon at the end. Semicolons in between is okay, absolutely fine. Now, this is called a generic swap macro. Why? Remember this. Inside my program, let's say I have this. Now I ask you to swap the values of A and B. Generally what you do, use a third variable. Or maybe you will not use a third variable, you can go for A equal to A plus B, B equal to A minus B, A equal to A minus B. Remember that? That way also you can do this. Anyway, no problem. So got this, now you have this and you write this. Swap A comma B. What it will be replaced with? It will be replaced with these three statements. And look at this carefully, swap A comma B ends with a semicolon. So automatically this semicolon will be at the end of this expansion. So what are the statements will be there? M equal to A equal to B, B equal to M. Clear with this? Done. So at the end of this you will find the values are swapped. And why I called it generic macro, generic swap macro, because if it is a function, it can swap only one type of value depending on the type of variables you are using as arguments to the function. But here, what you can do, you can simply decide. Like I am saying integer A, I can go for float, I can go for character, I can go for double. It will easily swap the values, no issues. That is the beauty of using this. Clear with this swap macro? Alright? Now look at this and tell me what is the answer to this. This same swap macro, assuming the swap macro is there. Okay? Assuming that swap macro which I just now discussed, it is still there. Okay? No. I write the statement inside my program. Okay, let's say I have integer x equal to 5, comma y equal to 10. I'm sorry, comma the third variable is 10. I say this is my condition. If x greater than y, then swap x comma y. Think of the answer to this. What will happen? Will it swap? The instant answer is no, it will not swap. Simply because x is not greater than y. Wait. We discussed, we already talked about this. We said, first of all, expand. First of all, the expansion switch. So what I should do? I should, in place of swap x comma y, I should write what? Temp equal to x equal to y equal to temp. Got the 3 lines? Now tell me what will happen with this code. What your compiler will do? Think of it. Okay. Now what will happen here? X greater than y, true or false? False. Is there any scope here? No. So without any scope, this if condition will be the next line, that is the line below this if statement is the only line which is dependent on the if statement, isn't it? So now what will happen? Since it is dependent on the if statement and if condition is false, this line will not be executed, but whatever these two lines, they will be executed, isn't it? They will be executed. Okay. So tell me what will happen. X equal to y, so x gets the value of y, that is 10, y equal to 10, 10 doesn't have a value and it's a local variable. So what value it contains? It's the garbage value. It is not automatically initialized to anything, isn't it? So y will not obviously have the value garbage. Got this? Okay, now let's look at 2 or 3 examples of these macros before I finish up. Okay, have a look. You can pause the video and look at the macros. One by one, I'm showing it to you. Okay. Go through these examples, and these are the types of questions which you will face in case you are, sitting for a written test where macros are there, or in case you are facing an interview where they ask you. These kind of questions are very common. And as I said in the beginning, we discussed throughout, sometimes it's a bit confusing. Never ever forget to expand the macro before going for any kind of answer. Understood? Do that. Alright. So, friends, I discussed 2 things with you. 2 types of preprocessor with you. 2 types are still left. In this video, it will not be possible to cover those 2 types, which I will cover in the second part of this preprocessor. Okay. In the first part, we have discussed 2, that is file inclusion and macro expansion. Alright. A couple of examples I have shown you already. You have seen those examples. You have seen how complicated it can become. Okay, the macros. But relax, don't worry. Go for the expansion. You will immediately get the answer. Okay, nothing to worry about. Maybe very complicated. The macro may be very complicated. It might look very complicated, but still, then doesn't matter. Got it? So this is all about preprocessor part 1. Friends, if you have questions, if you have suggestions, you can ask me so in the comment section. You can put your comments, and please again do not forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new, and please like the video, okay, and leave your comments and of course suggestions. Till that time, bye bye.